Hey guys, Wyatt Claypool here. Liberals in the media and online are lying about crime in Canada, and it really gets under my skin as someone with a research background on the topic of crime. What the Liberal allies are doing is effectively giving a permission structure to Prime Minister Mark Carney and his Liberal government to do nothing about crime because supposedly the problem is already getting better. So, why should they have to repeal the Trudeau era soft on crime policies like Bill C 75? That is why this is so toxic. These lies can drive public policymakers to not actually fix the problems they've created because haven't you seen the headlines? Crime is getting better. It's not, it's going up. And some of the lies from the media are so ridiculous, you can use the same source they used in order to prove them wrong. And it's not that difficult to do. You don't need a master's degree in this, you just need basic internet connection. Anyways, before I get into the topic, guys, make sure to like the video if you like the channel, subscribe if you are not yet a subscriber. I'm trying to get to 100,000 subscribers by mid-December of this year, or I owe my 4 friends dinner. If I get to 100,000 subscribers, they just owe me dinner. I made a very lopsided deal in order to scare myself into working harder. And then also leave a comment on what you think about this topic. I do like to scroll through and see what people are saying, as well as replying to a smattering of people. Anyways, so let's get into this topic, starting with this headline from Global News that reads, Police reported crime in Canada fell in 2024 for first time since pandemic. Now, right off the bat, I'm going to tell you this is not true. It is obviously not true based on the source he uses, which is Statistics Canada. Maybe he's trying to be a bit weaselly by saying police reported crime, because the way crime statistics are actually compiled is that they, take police reports, but then they also survey people to see if there has been crimes committed against them that were not reported. A bicycle was taken from the side of your house and you didn't notice that it was taken 2 days ago, so you don't even bother putting out an incident report or calling the police. It's probably long gone, it's been scrapped, or it's across the city, so what's the point? Or you were struck somewhere, someone punched you, the guy ran away, that the police are probably not going to catch him, so you didn't report it. Or there are certain things you can't report anymore, like drug crimes in British Columbia and Toronto, because they are living under states of decriminalization, which also drives down statistics and means that people don't report things that are still felonies because they believe that the decriminalization makes it okay. Even in BC, you still are only allowed to possess certain amount of controlled substances, but it means that nobody really ends up reporting it on the off chance that someone has a gram or more than they're supposed to be able to carry at one time. So already, this is just not accurate. And when you read the article, what they end up doing is often just focusing on nonviolent crimes. Wow, overall crime is down because I guess fewer people committed misdemeanors, or there has been slightly lower motor vehicle thefts. Motor vehicle thefts are serious crimes, but it's a crime that doesn't really reflect the actual amount of criminality out there. In 2021 and 2022, there was that big spate of theft of Kia cars because there was easy exploits in order to be able to break into them and hotwire them. So you had all these people around North America stealing Kias any chance that they got because it was super easy. That's a crime that naturally went down because car companies have had put more security measures in place to prevent stuff like that from happening. And then again, there's just other crimes that better security ends up driving down. But again, this article headline is still wrong. Even when I take nonviolent offenses into account, crime is still up. Now, I'm going to use the same source that this author supposedly used. Maybe Stats Canada put out a press release and he just copy and pasted it. That would mean Stats Canada's lying about their own stats. These are the statistics I'm using. Obviously, I'm not going to keep these on screen very long because they're just hard to look at, but you can you can rest assured that I have the incident-based reporting here that takes, again, into account police crime statistics like the police reports as well as the survey results. In the year 2020, because that article said that incidents of crime had dropped for the first time since the pandemic, although I also noticed that the article seems to imply that the pandemic COVID started in 2021. That seems like a deliberate choice, but even then, that wouldn't change anything. So I will focus on the crime rate, not just raw incidents. Although the rate is actually a little bit dishonest because naturally, when we've had mass immigration, a lot of students, a lot of TFWs, those people are not going to commit a lot of crimes. Naturally, when you enter a new country and you're terrified of potentially being deported if you do anything wrong, you're going to be on your best behavior. We do have foreign students and we do have TFWs committing crimes, but the thing is, it's a little bit of it ends up kind of padding the numbers out a bit because most TFWs work and go home, send remittances home. They finish their time and then they try and get an extension or they're supposed to leave, but many of them don't. But generally speaking, if you immigrate to a new country, you don't get off the plane and just start committing crimes left and right. So it actually underrepresents how bad the crime rate is by only just focusing on the rate. But that's what we will do today because that's what the article did. So in 2020, this is all instances of crime. 2020 per capita per 100,000, there was 5,896.62 crimes per 100,000. I also have 2015 here because I want to show what it was like when Justin Trudeau first entered office. But in the year 2024, which we have been told by the reputable global news outlet that it's down for the first time since the pandemic. In 2024, we had 6,133.52 crimes per 100,000. Now, maybe Mr. Sean Boyton doesn't know how to do math, he doesn't know what numbers mean, but this number is in fact bigger than that number. And also, what is kind of dishonest here that people will do is that they will take a crime peak. In many ways, 2023 was a higher crime year than 2024. But they can't say since the pandemic it's gone down. Are they counting 2023 as the pandemic? I would say I'd rather count it since the start of the pandemic, since the start has crime gone down, because those were higher crime years. 2020 was actually a low crime year, and we are way above that. We're way above 2021 and 2022. We're only down if you count 2023. So I will just put 2023 down here just to show the tactic the media uses to pretend that crime is down. So look, 2023, we had 6,345 instances of crime per 100,000. So we're down from that in the year 2024, but that's not how crime statistics should be measured. You should be measuring it over the 5 to 10 year span. In the long run, is crime down? I don't care if we spike and then we go down a bit. I would still consider that crime being up. You can't have crime shoot up 200% and then it goes down by 5%. We're like, oh, it's down. That is dishonest. So let's go back to 2015 just to show how much we've come up. So in 2015, we were at 5,986.93 crimes per 100,000. Oh, actually, it's 34934. It is higher than 2020 because it was a lockdown year, and naturally, people couldn't get out of the house in order to commit a crime. It was just, the cops had fewer people to deal with, so it was, easier to dissuade crime. Stores were closed. You don't really want to break and enter someone's home when you can be guaranteed that people are in fact home. But by 2019, the crime rate was 6,487. 2020, it went down because of the lockdowns. And then we also had that very high crime year in 2023 of 6,343. But again, considering the timeline from 2015 to 2024, it's up quite a bit. Crime has not been going in the right direction. And this is all incidents. We can mix in, minor crimes going up or down to inflate or deflate the crime rate. Let's focus on something different, something that is very serious. Let's look at violent crime, because violent crime, I don't know about you, I consider that worse than, somebody, being caught with possession of illegally sourced marijuana or whatever, which is included in these stats. Violent crime is one of those things where we should be trying our absolute best to hammer it down, but the liberals, with their bail reform, have been absolutely incentivizing people to commit violent crimes because you will be immediately released if you commit one. I'll clean up the board and then we'll get back to it on violent crime. So, when it comes to violent crime, in the year 2015, our violent crime rate in the last year of Stephen Harper was 1,070 out of every 100,000 people. This, of course, is assaults, everything up to murder, all sorts of assaults, whatever, battery, stuff like that. Then we go to 2020, in which the actual violent crime rate, even though it was that lockdown year where other forms of crime were down, the violent crime rate was actually up. We had that go to 1,265 per 100,000. And now in the year 2024, it is 1,433 per 100,000. In 2023, it was 1,441, so it's a little bit less than it was in 2023 and 2024. But my goodness, look at how much higher that is, going from 1,070 to 1,433. That is a very big deal. And yes, that is a consequence of the current policies of this liberal government. So I really dislike, too, when people will just, one, the global news article is still wrong that crime is down. We've seen me go through the numbers, it's up. But then they will mix in all these non-violent offenses going down to pretend like crime severity is down. It's like, but is it really? Because the crimes people most care about are way, way up. And like I pointed out before, BC, Toronto, you can't enforce certain drug crimes anymore. So naturally, that drops the rate. We have tons of crimes we barely enforce anymore. And so, of course, the crime rate is going to go down. And here is something else that the liberals will really not like. It's that a lot of the general decline in the crime rate since 2023 was because of provinces like Alberta. Alberta was why a lot of the total crimes were going down. I'll just quickly bring this up on screen so you guys can see it. I'll go between the different years again. You can just see me erase it. See this hot erasing action going on. There we go. But this is Alberta I'm going to be going over now. So in 2015, which is actually when the NDP took over, we had the crime rate at, this is overall crime, by the way, we had 8,916 per 100,000 people. And by 2020, the year after the UCP took back over, but it was a pandemic year to be fair, it had been down to 8,832. But since 2020, the low crime year for the country, to give you an idea, in 2019, the number was 10,000 in Alberta for the crime rate. In 2024 now, with Daniel Smith and Mike Ellis's more tough on crime approach, actually trying to make sure criminals go through the court system, are prosecuted, and giving a hard sentence. Despite the bad laws, they are trying to make sure the system is as efficient as possible, and we are not waiting or letting criminals get away with their crimes by the court system moving too slow. In 2024, the actual crime rate now is 7,754. And so a lot of the national decline in the crime rate is going to be because of places like Alberta having their crime rates fall massively. It even fell, I believe, it fell off massively. Yeah, so the low crime year, even that year, it's lower than it's higher than the current year. Whereas with all crimes federally right now, nationally, 2024 is still higher than 2020. But in Alberta, it's lower in 2024 than it was in the low crime year of 2020. That's great progress. But now I need to move on to a post that really annoyed me, that based on what I've just showed you should just seem like the stupidest thing you've ever seen in your life. Here is a liberal activist online pretending like crime is just doing really well. that conservatives are lying. So he makes the subtext of the Global News article real text and says, Mr. Polyev, everything is broken in Canada isn't quite reflected in Toronto in 2025. Auto theft down 39%, home invasions down 42%, homicide down 67, shootings down 46, hate crimes down 47%. Great job, Toronto Police Service and City of Toronto. Okay, well, how about I go to all violent crimes in the City of Toronto and we check if this is even true. It's actually that the Statistics Canada thing is actually a lot of fun. I like using their stats. They're very efficient. Let's look at violent crime. It's again one of these things that matters. And I don't really care to look up the specific crimes. Homicide's a strange one because it's not like thousands of people are being murdered every year. And so a serial killer being present one year and not being present the next year can really mess with statistics. But let's look at the actual crime rate. So let's go through this practice I've been doing, and let's look at the city of Toronto for violent crime between 2015, 2020, and 2024, the years that I'm using for our benchmarks. So in 2015, the crime rate in the city of Toronto for violent crime was 743 per 100,000. Naturally, urban areas actually have generally lower crime because it's easier to enforce the law in a dense urban center, although more people notice crime and they get, it affects their lives because it's happening around them. They weren't the one assaulted, but there was assaults going on at the train station they're at or whatever. So you don't really consider the fact that, oh, I wasn't punched, so it doesn't matter, but you saw it happen. Whereas sometimes in rural areas, crime's actually higher simply because police can't police it as well, but it's usually more minor, like someone stole something off your farm type stuff. But so we have in 2015, 743 crimes per 100,000 in the city of Toronto for violent crime. 2020, we have 763 crimes per 100,000 for violent crime. So even in the low year, it was actually higher than it was in 2015 because of bail reform. In 2024, guys, what do you think this number is? Because this man here has assured me it's very low. Homicides are down, shootings are down, hate crimes are down, home invasions, auto thefts, and some of those may be down, but they're very specific statistics. So, guys, violent offenses, drum roll please, violent offenses in the year 2024 in Toronto are 1,116. In fact, that number is higher than it was in 2023, which was 997. It is now 1,016. The first time the number has been above 1,000 since 2007. Goodness. Yeah, maybe these people might be lying. It's almost like that they don't actually care about being honest. They just care about pumping up their own team. This number, just in case there's people in the cheap seats, this number right here is higher than that number and that number. It's not down, but people are trying to drive me up the wall by just claiming things about crime that are not true. The most serious form of crime is way up. Yes, motor vehicle theft might be down, but there's a reason why the Toronto police are trying to tell people to leave their car keys at the front door in case someone breaks into trying to look for them, because it's become very common that the police are having to address it. These things have become more common over the last 10 years. Yes, motor vehicle thefts may be down since 22, but they're up since 2015, at least in specific places. And when it's actually trending downwards in Canada compared to 23, you have to thank places like Alberta, places that the Liberals don't want to thank. But anyways, that's it for this video, guys. Hopefully you found this helpful for the next time someone tells you that you're fear-mongering by highlighting the crime rate. You're not. You're being accurate. But with that, guys, remember to like the video, subscribe to the channel, leave a comment, do all that great stuff, and I will see you guys all next time.